Trae.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Chats with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and I'm so excited to have with me a young organizer, Miss Tuyet-Nhi Vo. What's up, Miss Tuyet-Nhi?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here with us. Now, you are actually here in capacity with Neighborhood House and also the Southeast Seattle Peace Coalition, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk a little bit about you. And I really want to dive in because as a young organizer, what really got you started in organizing with Southeast Seattle and Neighborhood House?
Yeah, before I was working with Neighborhood House, I was working with another local nonprofit called Appy Cat. And then also my mother's involvement in prevention. She also works with Neighborhood House, and that kind of enticed me to get involved as well. Seeing her involved in all of these community events made me really interested.
Well, what are some of the main missions for the audience here who may not know much about Neighborhood House? What are some of the main missions that Neighborhood House goes after in terms of their organizing work and efforts?
Yeah, Neighborhood House really just works within the community. They have a bunch of different areas. So specifically, I work within the Southeast Seattle area. And so they kind of make sure that they're working with the community in collaboration to do to kind of attack some of the issues. So I'm in the community health. We do the HIV testing and we do some education and advocacy around prevention.
Yeah. Prevention. That is such a broad term. And so you said your mom has been working in it. What kind of inspired you from your mother's work and her perspective, maybe even probably talks at the dinner table? I'm sure you were immersed in, what the work was of Neighborhood House. What are some of the things that really come to top of mind for you that made you say, you know what, I think I can lend my voice to those efforts as well, Mom?
Yeah. I mean, when you think about prevention or like you kind of attend some of the meetings, there are a lot of older people, which is great. But in order to kind of attack the topic of prevention, specifically tobacco prevention, which I'm interested in, you kind of need to give the youth the voice on around this topic. It's quite interesting that not a lot of youth are given that opportunity. And so once I started seeing that there was a lack of youth sitting at the table discussing how some of these policies and programs aren't actually helping their population, that's when I got really passionate about speaking around prevention, tobacco prevention.
Well, I think it's really important because, when we talk about prevention efforts, again, it can be broad, but we've been seeing a real, I think, progression of these kinds of discussion, particularly around things like tobacco prevention, which went through a spike, right? When folks started to realize that cancer was attached to tobacco. But now there's really these efforts around even marijuana prevention because it's been legalized. How has the work been for you to bring your youth voice to these tables and to maybe draft some communication around folks that would be like yourself in your age and your generation responding to the messages that are coming out of Neighborhood House?
It's a very interesting question. I think the efforts that Neighborhood House has made, it's very inclusive. They kind of work around working with the parents in collaboration. They also have implemented programs within like Aki Kuros in the community and really making sure that they feel like the community is heard and in part of that kind of prevention work, because I think a lot of work around that is done with the thought of the community, but not in collaboration with the community. And I think Neighborhood House does a pretty good job in making sure that the community's input is there.
Yeah. So give us, I guess, an example of what a day, with you at Neighborhood House kind of looks like in terms of connecting with community and probably youth specifically around tobacco prevention. What does a typical day look like for Tuyet-Nhi Vo?
Well, I kind of started in the midst of this planning for this event. So in a typical day, I'm kind of outreaching to some of the community members that are on the committee and interacting with some of the youth member who have kind of got involved. And it's pretty cool to see like their personal interests kind of applied to what we're doing.
Yeah. How much of do you think, and this is just kind of kind of an offbeat question, but how much do you think is really driven for folks to work in prevention work because they've been maybe directly impacted, maybe a family member that, had, lung cancer, maybe from long-term tobacco use or things like that, that really kind of elevate people's personal stories so that they can bring that lived experience into tobacco prevention, particularly in the areas you're working in with Neighborhood House?
Yeah, I feel like it's very highly influenced by their own personal experiences. Personally speaking, my family has a long history of tobacco prevention. Um, and so, kind of realizing that there's kind of a lack of information or lack of resources for the community, I think that makes people very passionate about the cause.
Yeah. And you said you're working specifically in Southeast Seattle. What has been kind of the response from, some of the maybe campaigns you're doing around tobacco prevention? How have you been seeing like the response from residents in Southeast Seattle?
Um, I haven't been working with Neighbor House that long,
Mhm.
but from the responses that I've seen, it's very good. It's an overall, um, there's good responses with the community, and I feel like the families in Southeast Seattle feel heard with Neighborhood House, just because, like I've just like talked about how they've implemented programs within the middle school and kind of collaborated with the families and the parents, which is amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It just, I think it's some, when you're talking about prevention, it really does take an intergenerational approach because oftentimes, there's, some folks that may be stuck in their ways around tobacco usage. And again, when you have something like tobacco that has been, legal for so many decades, right? I think that permeating that, the ideology around tobacco use, folks would say, yes, we know it causes cancer. Yes, we know we shouldn't smoke around young folks. But it's really important when you're talking about directing messaging to middle school students so that they understand before they even get to be able to buy tobacco, that they're understanding the harsh effects of it. Is that something that you guys are putting in your messaging? So what you've seen thus far at Neighborhood House?
From my perspective, yes, we kind of reinforce positive enforcement and making sure that they have programs so that they're not like kind of getting into any of that when they get a little older and like realizing the effects of it.
Yeah. I know you guys have probably been able to analyze some of those strong, national tobacco, prevention campaigns and language that really were talking about the chemicals that are involved in tobacco production that then just get embed into the body when you're utilizing tobacco. Have you guys been able to connect any of your messaging to some of those larger kind of national commercials or campaigns?
Um, that's quite interesting,
Mhm.
actually. I think that we have been looking at that, and I think that also just like with the recent popularity with like vapor products as well,
Mm.
because that's really interesting. I've been seeing it within my own peer group and everything about how people there's like a increased interest around vapor products, and so kind of taking a look about how tobacco and vapor product the industry has kind of marketed towards youth and their messaging, kind of making it critical for when we do our messaging and we advocate and educate the community as well. So yeah, we do.
Yeah, I that was going to be one of my next things I go to because you're so right. I mean, when we talk about like vaping, now there's all kind of flavors that are, kind of masking the taste of tobacco or things like that. So there has been, it seems like it's been very targeted towards younger people, and being able to have that kind of prevention is very serious. Now I know it's kind of been outlawed here in Washington. How has that impacted maybe your messaging as far as what you guys are doing? Because it's now like not really legal, right? There's still some products out there, but how has that maybe impacted how you guys are approaching this?
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been, I don't think, from my role, I don't think there is much happening specifically from what I know.
Mhm.
I do know that there's behind the scenes stuff. So we're attending meetings and we're going to policy meetings and stuff like that, discussing how that is affecting our youth. Um, but I know primarily for we have a campaign, Most Steer Clear, and they
Mm.
do marijuana use and driving. So there's a couple of messaging around that, making sure like you know what's happening, and then like driving under the influence with marijuana use and stuff like that.
Well, so just quickly before we go to break here, the ways that it's kind of broken down, maybe committee by committee at Neighborhood House, is it about very specific prevention tactics? Like you said, you've been working on tobacco prevention, then maybe there's another group around marijuana prevention, maybe another group around maybe some of the harsher drug preventions. We know that methamphetamines and opioids have been kind of on the rise. So are you guys hitting all of the spectrums around just prevention of these kinds of products in general?
Our committee and our like the sections of our organization, it's kind of overall, but we do take on projects or campaigns specifically for specific things. So like we have the Most Steer Clear for marijuana, and so or we'll attend meetings for vaping. So it's not inclusive or specifically for one thing, but we do try our efforts for as much as we can.
Good. I think it's important that people hear these kinds of messages from youth like yourself, and kudos to you for digging in and seeing yourself as a part of the solution. It's something I'm always saying on this platform, is that it's so important that we all kind of give into something. And I'm glad that you found something that sparks your interest so that you can give your time to it. We're going to be talking after the break here about an event that you guys have coming up with Southeast Seattle Peace Coalition. And you guys are going to be putting these mayoral candidates at the fire. So I'm really interested to learn more about that. You guys stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break right now. You're watching Chats with Trae. Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today on this episode of Chats with Trae. I am joined by Tuyet-Nhi Vo of Neighborhood House, but also of Southeast Seattle Peace Coalition. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Peace Coalition and this event you guys have coming up on the 27th of this month. I want to give you the floor here so you can really describe what this event is all about and why you guys are asking for these mayoral candidates to come out and speak to your audience.
Yeah. So again, like you said, it's happening May 27th, 4 to 5 p.m. And so in the past, this has been always an annual event, but in the past, we've kind of come together every year to kind of talk about and celebrate what has happened over the past year. But this year, we're looking at bringing the mayoral candidates to us online to kind of discuss some of the issues within Southeast Seattle. And with that, we hope that the community can use this forum as a tool because, as we know, the mayoral election is coming up. And so that kind of gives the community a better idea. It kind of reflects and addresses some of the issues they are concerned about.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I mean, when we talk about mayoral candidates and these kind of candidate forums, that there is a way to really elevate youth voices. What had you guys saying, you know what, we're going to have some of the youth really at the lead of this, really organizing this and making sure that their concerns are part of the questions?
Yeah, I think it's really important that they're part of it because, some of them aren't allowed to vote yet. So they can't decide, but they do have the power to kind of organize this forum and create some questions specifically for these candidates to address issues that they're really, that they've seen in their community that they feel are important. So though they can't vote, we give them kind of the opportunity to say like, hey, this is important. You should talk about this. How are you going to address it? How are you going to interact with the community?
Yeah, I think that that's important. And what have you guys been doing to try to make sure that Southeast Seattle residents are aware of this? How have you guys been promoting this to try to spread the opportunity for folks to send in questions beforehand?
Yeah. So one here. And then we have it posted on our Facebook actually. So you can pre-register for our Zoom on our Facebook 206 Rising. But we have also created a flyer that's going around. We've done some reach out to some local high schools in the area, Rainier Beach High School, Franklin High School, Cleveland High School. We're hoping to get some of the students to come and join us to watch and kind of hear out some of the mayoral candidates. We're offering a 1-hour service learning so that they can get some of that. And then I've reached out to some of the teachers to offer extra credit actually for their attendance.
I think that, you're really utilizing a multi-pronged approach here. And so much we talk about it in various formats in community that, it takes kind of this kind of multidisciplinary approach to really start to tackle these issues head on in a way that really elevates so many of the voices that are impacted by the decisions that come out of the mayoral office. So I got to ask you, what are some of the things that you're really hoping these candidates will address?
Yeah, I'm really interested in knowing how they interact with the community and collaborate because we came up with a bunch of different questions like how are they going to address the digital divide? How are they going to help support some of the families because of the COVID pandemic? But I'm interested in working with the community. How are they going to make sure that they're talking to some of the parents, some of the youth in the community? That's what's really interesting me because we can talk about what they're going to do, but how are they going to do it?
Yeah, I think the at the end of the day, so much of this is about strategy and approach, right? And sometimes the message can get lost if they just stay about this kind of overarching, kind of this is what I want to do, and it seems very surface level. So I'm glad you're already thinking about penetrating below that and really getting to some brass tacks of how it happens. I think that's really important. In terms of bringing these candidates to bear, how has that been? Because I know you've been behind the scenes helping to organize this event. So you've been having to reach out. You guys have been having to make sure candidates know about this and that they actually say, yes, we're coming. How has that been, just the process of organizing the event?
Honestly, it's been a little stressful, but all in all, it's been good. Great communication between the campaign managers. They've been amazing. Always on top of their emails. Yeah, we're hoping to have a video recording of some of their answers, and then we'll have a live section after it. So that's pretty exciting.
Oh, right on. You guys are utilizing this technology to your advantage.
Yeah.
I see. So tell the people about some of the candidates that you guys will have there. Let us know who is going to be present.
Yeah, we have Bruce Harrell, Lance Randall, Lorena Gonzalez, and then a couple of other candidates.
So you guys got some of the heavy hitters on board.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when we talk about difference of approaches, right? I think just even the three candidates you mentioned, we've had them here and talking about their campaign at Converge Media. And it's been really interesting to kind of hear the wide range of ways that they are going to attempt to stay connected to community, which I hear is so important to you as well. And really, I think that when we talk about different neighborhoods, we understand that certain neighborhoods are in need of certain things. What do you think is coming out of the importance and maybe some of the things you've been hearing from, community groups and youth out there in South Seattle that are some of the topics that really are going to be tackled at this event?
Yeah, like I've mentioned, the digital divide, and somehow they're going to get some support for the pandemic, as well as hotspots, because there's been an increase in crime, the Asian hate as well, and stuff like that. We also address some of how they're going to support the community with some increase of drug use as well. So there's a lot of topics that we kind of go over. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, we understand that, there's diverse characteristics and real specific characteristics in every neighborhood. And we've been talking about it, Southeast Seattle has been seeing such an uptick in, gun violence and in youth in particular, really being at the center of that. So thank you again for pulling together this candidate forum with Southeast Seattle Peace Coalition. Tell the people right now how they can be involved and make sure that they are present for those Southeast Seattle residents out there that want to know more and know how they can log on.
Yeah. So you can join us on Facebook and you can pre-register on the Facebook. You just find out there's a Zoom link to pre-register, or you can watch us live on streaming Facebook. It's going to be May 27th, 4 to 5 p.m. Hope to see you there.
Absolutely. And they can be looking up, what is it? Is it Southeast Seattle Peace Coalition?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. What are
you
they
look up
looking at?
206 Rising.
206 Rising. You
Yes.
said it. Yes. You know what, Tuyet-Nhi Vo, thank you for your dedication to community. I think it's so huge that we have more and more youth ambassadors like yourself that are speaking up and making sure your voices and your concerns are going to be heard by these mayoral candidates. And above all, I really appreciate you for coming on to Chats with Trae today and showing the audience how you yourself have said, I'm going to be a part of the solution. I'm going to be working in collaboration with my community members to ensure that there's some real change. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you guys heard it here with Tuyet-Nhi Vo of Neighborhood House and Southeast Seattle Peace Coalition. Together, they are coming with other community organizations and bringing the mayoral candidates to the forefront. It's going to be important that these youth questions and, perspectives are at the basis of how these candidates are going to be addressing the community. Oftentimes, these kinds of candidate forums are formed by people that are older, or maybe that by people that have been doing it for a long time. So it's great to get an injection of youth at the approach. And I'm so excited that Tuyet-Nhi was here to share with us how she's become a part of the solution. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Chats with Trae. You guys know every Friday at 2 p.m. we'll be having another episode. We appreciate you guys for watching. Thanks so much.